Broadway beat. Broadway. Broadway beat. Broadway beat. Broadway beat. Broadway. Listen to the Broadway beat. Broadway makes you wanna move your feet. Everybody's tapping into everything that's happening on Broadway beat. Broadway beat. Broadway beat. Broadway beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, where we bring you the very best of what the New York theater scene has to offer. This week we'll have a look at the new Broadway musical, The Story of My Life, which unfortunately has already opened and closed at the Booth Theater. It was written by newcomers Neil Bartram and his partner Brian Hill. It was directed by Tony Award winner Richard Maltby Jr. and featured two wonderful performances by Will Chase and Malcom. We'll bring you that later in the show. But let's start things off by meeting the company of one of this season's most eagerly awaited new plays, Impressionism by Michael Jacobs. It welcomes back to Broadway, after a 20-year absence, Tony Award winners Jeremy Irons and Joan Allen. It will open at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater on March 12th under the direction of Tony Award winner Jack O'Brien. Also included in this stellar cast is Marsha Mason, Andre DeShields, Michael T. Weiss, and Darren Lazar.
I was not looking for a play. I'm so busy right now, I can't even feed my dogs. I mean, it's just impossible. But Bill sent this script to me, and he said, I want you to have a look at it. And the only one who'd seen it, other than Bill, was Jeremy, who he had lured out of, whatever, semi-retirement to Broadway with this script. And I thought, oh, God, I can't do it. I don't have any time. And I read it and thought, I have to do this play. It's just adorable, and it's wise, and it's about us. It's not about, as I said, nobody shoots up, nobody changes sex, nobody gets mugged, you know what I mean? It's what a refreshing idea. And we haven't had a really witty, wise, romantic comedy in New York in a long time, and this is it. And I've got this gorgeous cast, and their chemistry is gorgeous, and it's going to be beautiful to look at, and I think it's a sort of very up night out for a change, and it tells you something. Those of us who are of, as the French say, un certain âge, may have a little difficulty letting go of the baggage and reaching out to people. It's hard. You don't want to feel stupid any longer. When you're a kid, it doesn't matter. But, when you got as many years on you as I do, you don't want to stumble and fall. So, and this is emotionally what it's about. These people who are doing this extraordinary kind of dance before they think, what else we got? We might as well. It's just wonderful.
This is like a dream come true. This is like the process that you always want as an actor, to be able to have the time to explore and to work with this cast and to work with Jack O'Brien and to work with this crew and this design team. It doesn't get any better than this.
Talk about the role that you're going to play.
I play a character named Ben Joplin, who is a school teacher, social worker, kind of Peace Corps guy in Africa. And then at the end of the play, I play the fiance of this couple who comes into Joan's gallery, where Joan her character owns a gallery, and Jeremy's character works with Joan. And based on our interest in a particular piece of art that she's selling, it sort of becomes a springboard for right into the end of the play and wraps everything up. So it's special, man. It's really great.
Well, the character's name is Catherine, and she owns an art gallery in New York City. It's her own gallery. And she's a single woman, and she has certain paintings in her gallery that she's particularly attached to that she doesn't necessarily want to sell. And this man comes to her gallery one day, and so they sort of strike up a friendship, and it's kind of about their relationship, and it's about having a relationship at a certain age of life. And the play is just very lovely and funny and optimistic, and so it's a beautiful piece.
You're in the middle of rehearsals. I love the rehearsal process. Marsha Mason once told me during Steel Magnolias, her favorite part is that first read-through that you do around the table the first time when you hear all these voices sort of come to life. What has it been like for you, the rehearsal process?
Well, it's been wonderful. I only did theater, for many, many years. That's all I started doing when I was in high school and with the Steppenwolf Company in Chicago. So for me, it's kind of like a homecoming, and I'm remembering what the process is like. And it's sort of like riding a bicycle. You don't forget. Each day brings a new sort of twist, and it is wonderful to sit around and read the play for the first time. And you feel like you understand all this stuff, and then the next week of rehearsal you feel like you don't understand anything because you're figuring it out. So it's and I remember all that process from having done so many plays in my life. So
I'm playing a character by the name of Chimbwane, who is a Tanzanian fisherman who has a very special relationship with sweet potatoes. Now, I don't know if I should reveal any more than that so we can leave something interesting for the audience to come find out. But he represents that eternal soul, that eternal joyful soul that we have historically associated with Africa. And he is a man who wants not only to save himself, but his community and his nation, but the entire world. And he knows that by delivering a smile as wide as the rainbow, people will pay attention. Which reminds me, it just occurred to me, that Chimbwane must know Arthur Miller, because my subtext for this character is, attention must be paid.
The writing, I think, is very, very good. I read the play and I thought, I have to be a part of this. It was just a wonderful, spontaneous response. And interestingly enough, everybody, including the producers, felt the same way, because it's kind of unusual to bring a play straight to Broadway. And it's kind of dangerous, but I like living on the edge. So, and with Jack O'Brien and this wonderful cast, I just think it's a really, really exciting project.
Talk about the role that you're going to play.
I'm playing an art patron who comes into a gallery in Chelsea to purchase an aqua tent for her daughter who's about to have her first child, and I have very conflicted feelings about becoming a grandmother. So it's wry and funny and touching and all of those things. And the play is a love story. So I think that's really lovely.
I play 3 characters in the show. The first one is Nicole Halliday, and I get to play an artist's model. She's sort of an artist herself, and it's just very, very free, strong, powerful character. The second character that I play is a volunteer school teacher in Africa. They're all sort of named Nicole right now, so there's no distinction, but there are distinctions in the characters. And the third character that I play is a young girl living in New York who's just very much in love and full of faith and belief, to the positivity of the world,
I play an incredibly wealthy gentleman who's more enamored of a piece of artwork than I am of Joan Allen's character, which is really complicated for me because I'm a little bit in love with Joan Allen. She's fantastic.
And with the whole process, I know you're sort of finishing up the rehearsal process, getting ready to go into the theater. What's it all been like?
Just working with everybody so professional and so hardworking, and just a delightful group of people and really funny. And Jack O'Brien is probably one of the funniest men I've ever met in my life, our director. So it's been a treat, and I can't wait to step on that lovely Broadway stage and get it all out to the audience. It's going to be really exciting.
Well, it's great to get in contact again with old friends, because, of course, I'm in and out of the city most of the time, but being here and people knowing you're here, old friends come out of the woodwork, and that's a lot of fun. It's quite changed since I was last here. I think it's probably safe to say it's harder to get an audience into the theatre for a straight play, especially in these financially strictured times. But I think we have an interesting season coming up, not only our play, but the Elizabeth and Mary play, which is very interesting, and there's a lot of a lot of things I think will be good to have here, and I hope we will encourage people to spend the odd spare dollar, if they have one, to come to the theatre and see a new play, a new American play going straight onto Broadway. Very rare. I'm lucky to have Joan Allen. I'm lucky to have Jack O'Brien directing it. So let us see.
So what was it originally that attracted you to the play? I mean, I haven't read it yet, but everybody who's spoken to me about reading this play said it's like nothing, it's just an amazing play.
It is extraordinary. It's quite difficult to pin down. I mean, I obviously don't want to oversell it, because we oversell so much these days and go and see them and think, oh, well, that's not as good as I expected. But it is a unique play, I think, in that it's not really until you get to the end of it that you understand it fully or see fully what it's about. It's not quite so sequential as most conventional dramas. And all I can say is that when I closed, I thought I want to do this tomorrow. Joan felt the same. Jack O'Brien felt the same. So it has something about it, a spirit, a heart. I don't know what it is, but I hope the audience catch what we caught when we read it.
And talk about the man that you play, the role himself.
Well, he's a National Geographic photographer, sort of retired. He retired himself. He finally saw enough in Africa. Decided he wanted to come and do something that didn't require him to be out in the world. He wanted almost to retire from the world. And he finds this art gallery run by a lady. And he starts work there, and he begins to get to know the lady. But the art gallery, in a way, is an allegory for someone's heart, soul, whatever. So the play is on many levels, and I think it's a grown-up play. It's a grown-up love story. It's intellectual, and yet not over-intellectual. I think it's possibly something which audiences will enjoy. I hope so.
One of the casualties to the second half of this theater season was the new Broadway musical, The Story of My Life, which unfortunately has already opened and closed at the Booth Theater. It was written by newcomers Neil Bartram, who did the score, and his real-life partner Brian Hill, who wrote the book. It was directed by Tony Award winner Richard Maltby Jr. and featured 2 knockout performances by Will Chase and Malcom Getz. We had caught up with all of them at their recent opening night. So for all of you who will never have a chance to see this musical, here's our look at The Story of My Life.
And though the years may come and go, when I need to have them with me, they'll be here. They'll be here. Swirling round and around in a magical Christmas Eve. The way they did then, back when we were just 10. All our angels again in the snow.
You know, I first saw it when it was presented at BMI, just 4 songs, and they didn't really have the rest of it written. But it was clear in those 4 songs that they were on to something. They were going to tell a story about friendship, and no one had ever really done that. We've told many other kinds of relationship stories, but no one's really dug into a friendship, particularly a friendship between 2 men. Lots of stories about friendships of women. But with men, it's always this danger area, you know. Are you... there's a gay story, and then there are, jock camaraderie, but there's a whole lot of stuff in the middle, and it's a love story. Friendships are love stories, aren't they, really?
Talk about the collaboration with these 2 gentlemen.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was absolutely stunning. I guess because I'm a writer, too, I really understood their process, and I understood
I understood the honorableness of their work. I understood that there's never an ear cocked to what will work on Broadway. It was always about honesty. It was always about truth. It was always about honesty. It was about truth. And then that went wherever it went. And I encouraged that, and we did a lot of shaping of the story together. But that they started on such a solid artistic ground that I was just, it was a gift.
Just admit, Tom, you expected more. But isn't this refreshing? This is it, Tom. Sure, it's nothing like the picture on the box. And no secrets exist in some moment you missed. Just accept that sometimes pieces might not fit. And that's okay, 'cause all that you needed, Tom, is here. All around us, this is it.
We did a production in Toronto in October of '06 at Can Stage and developed it there.
And then it played, the next stop was?
The next stop was, we actually went to Theatre Works in Palo Alto for 2 weeks and worked on it there just quietly in a private room. And those rewrites were eventually seen at Goodspeed Opera House just this past November.
And talk about adding Richard Maltby Jr. into the mix.
Richard saw a 20-minute presentation. He was running a masterclass at the BMI workshop where Neil is a member, and we presented about 20 minutes of the show then, maybe 3 songs and a couple of scenes, and he was the master of the masterclass and wrote Neil the next day and basically sent a long email about what he thought we were trying to do, what direction he thought we should go in, which was exactly what we wanted to do. He was dead on. And then when it came time to do a 45-minute presentation at NAMT, the Alliance for Musical Theatre, we thought instantly of Richard because he had already had such a connection to the piece.
Tell me the first song you wrote for the show originally and the last piece you wrote for the show.
Ooh, the first song. Well, that would be Neil's department, but I can tell you the first song was something called My Father, which is no longer in the show. That was written long ago. And the last song was something called Independence Day, which is in the show. In fact, there are 2 songs remaining from that original draft, which was 10 years ago.
And talk about your collaboration. Collaborations are so special, and when they work really well, and yours does. Why do you think that is professionally?
I think it's because we like each other, which helps a lot, and I think it's because I do the book and he does the music and lyrics. We don't overlap, so we can go off to our separate offices and then meet up and put things together. It's as simple as that.
Well, we wanted to write a show about friendship, but not just a friendship, but about tracking through that friendship and identifying the moments where, like the one person influenced the other, and in a small way. Like we didn't want to do something about like wedding or graduation or the big moments that everybody recognizes, but the small moments that, when looking back, you realize, wait a second, that's when I decided to go in this direction, or that's when this person said something to me that inspired me to do this, but you don't necessarily notice them at the time. And so we kind of made this the framework of a eulogy, with looking back on the other friend's life and possibly having some regrets and some choices that were made along the way that you want to reinvestigate, and so that's sort of how the thing evolved into what it is now.
How much of the show changed between Toronto and now New York?
It changed a lot, and we had a step in between that where we went to Goodspeed. We did a huge rewrite after Toronto, and then we did the NAMT presentation, the National Alliance for Music Theatre, when the production got optioned by the commercial producers, Chase Mishkin and her team, and then we went to Goodspeed to do an out-of-town tryout last fall. And at every step along that way, it changed and grew, and also the addition of Will, Chase, and Malcom Getz changed it as well, because once you know who you're writing for, it really helps to kind of to solidify it, and they're so amazing, and they just inspired me to write better stuff, and I think Brian too felt the same way. That and also we had added Richard Maltby along the way, and he was so inspirational, and so he's so gifted in storytelling and that kind of thing, and he was an amazing mentor to us on this project as well as a director.
Talk about the first song you wrote for the show originally and the last song you wrote.
The first song I wrote is still in the show, and it's called Oh, you know what? The first song I wrote is not still in the show. It's a song that one of the characters sang at his father's funeral, and it ended up getting cut. The second song is still in the show, and that's called Mrs. Remington, about a childhood teacher, and the influence that teacher had on their lives. And then the last song was a song called Independence Day that Malcolm's character sings at sort of a turning point where he feels like he's going to finally leave his small town and get a taste of the wide world out there.
Yeah. Talk about collaboration. Sometimes collaborations work so well. Yours does. Why do you think that is professionally?
Well, with my relationship with Brian and collaborating with Brian, we're also life partners, so that doesn't hurt. I mean, we understand each other. We have a shorthand, and I think one of the reasons that works is because I write music and lyrics and he writes books, and so we have our delineated tasks that are separate. I think if we were in the same room all the time, we'd probably kill each other. But because we have, I can go off and write a song and be by myself, and he can go off and write some scene work, and then we kind of what we do is we do show and tell, and we present our stuff to each other, and so we're always the first audience for the other one's work, and there's nothing like that, sharing that with somebody that you care so much about.
You're a butterfly, my friend, powerful and strong, and I'm grateful for the way you've always hurried me along. When you flap your wings to stretch yourself, it might seem small to you, but you change the world. So he stretched his wings and took off from the safety of his tree. And the butterfly finally saw the sea.
It's been I think everybody says this when every project they do, but this has been it's been smart the way Chase Michigan and Richard and everybody did it. We kind of workshopped it a little bit, and then we took some time off, and then we took it to Goodspeed, and it was nice to do it there. And it's been like a slow, nice, organic, kind of chill process. And Malcolm and I learned early on that we could only rehearse for about 4 hours a day, because at first you're like, oh, an hour and a half show, I can rehearse that, but then you go, I'm in every moment of it. So it was not, and to work with Malcolm Getz too. It's just like, you go to rehearsal and you're like, this is easy. I just show up and he makes me look great. So
talk about the role that you play and what you love about the material.
Neil and Brian, who wrote the score and the book, they're so good at weaving music with story. It's kind of seamless, it's been that way since I've been a part of the piece, and the storytelling aspect of it, the fact that Malcolm and I have to use our imaginations. There's one scene where Malcolm stares at a butterfly the whole time, and you swear that he sees a butterfly, and the audience has to do that too. It's kind of like we're all on the same page. And with Thomas, my character is a bit of a stick in the mud, and is a famous writer, and Alvin, Malcolm's character, kind of steers him through these flashbacks and kind of opens up his heart, because Alvin is a very open vessel and open heart, and eventually gets Thomas to open up his heart, and that's what the hour-and-a-half journey is.
And the audience's reaction. The booth is so intimate. How that feels for you?
It's amazing. It's the I can't imagine doing it anywhere else, because it's the perfect theater. It's still a Broadway feel. It feels like a play. I spend 80% of the time talking to our friends, the audience. So it's nice that I can actually see the people in the last row of the balcony. It's got that Broadway feel, but it's a very, it's my favorite theater to go see plays at too, because you still feel like you're on the Broadway, but it's very intimate and you feel like you're part of the action and very close.
Mrs. Remington, our first grade teacher, made elementary school a better place. But her single most disturbing feature was the coarse black hair on her face. Maybe she was menopausal, lack of estrogen will cause a lot of odd conditions, some acute. The irony would never face her namesake of a famous razor, and to be so facially hirsute. But Mrs. Remington smiled, and she would brighten my day. Back then, a teacher hugged you to make you feel okay, though my face sorta stung from Mrs. Remington's beard. When she held me, my problems disappeared. how lucky am I, how lucky are Will and I to get to appear in a new Broadway piece by two new writers, two sensational new writers, Neil Bartram and Brian Hill, who have come from Canada and I think have really offered Broadway something that it hasn't seen in a long time.
Talk about the beautiful score and the book. I mean, it's a perfect blending.
Good. Yeah, they write together brilliantly. Neil Bartram writes the music and lyrics. Brian Hill writes the score. Neil's music is very complex, and yet I think absolutely accessible at the same time. Like there's enormous complexity to it, but it's the kind of music that I hear and my heart starts racing. His lyrics are brilliant, and then Brian, who wrote the book, the script, writes in the same vernacular as the lyrics, so I actually feel like you can't tell where one starts and the other stops. To me, it feels like one piece. It feels like they are one person that wrote the entire piece, and it's totally original. It's not based on a play or a movie or a television show. It came from their imagination, and the proof is in the audience's reactions. The entire 3 weeks we've been here, people are moved.
Talk about the role that you play and working with Will. Your chemistry is really wonderful to watch, the two of you.
That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I play Alvin, Will plays Thomas. Will and I had done a couple of workshops together, and then about 3 months before I became involved with this piece, he and I had repeatedly auditioned for a TV show, which came and went, and we were both out in Queens, and I was out for my 4th audition, and he was out for his 3rd or 4th, and neither of us got the TV show, and we took the train back into Manhattan together. And we didn't have a bitter actor conversation. We ended up talking about his children. I talked about my desire to have children. We talked about school. I talked about directing him in a show one day. We just really connected. And then 3 months later, it was like, as we say in Yiddish, beschert. Like suddenly, all of a sudden, we were playing friends. But what I've learned in the past is that sort of chemistry connection between actors, you can go to dinner, you can spend a lot of time together, it could never happen. It just exists with Will and I. And he's an amazing actor, he's an amazing singer. He's been so loving and so dear to me. And I can't imagine doing it without him. And the roles are incredible. I mean, I thought this is why I went to school, this is why I took singing lessons. It all sort of comes together in this piece because it demands all of everything from both of us. So I feel very fortunate. The way they did then, back when we were just 10, all our angels again, in the snow.